everyone, and welcome to Infinite Integration, where infinite possibility meets daily practice. I'm Tanys and Coughlan from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Jacqueline Richards, a wealthy yogini. Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you with us again as we move into another episode of Infinite Integration. So, why does healing ancestral scarcity feel like such an important conversation right now? Because it's coming up over and over again. We've got this scarcity piece that's happening. And then also ancestral patterns are coming up to heal. So why is that coming up in the way that it is at this time? What do you think?
Yeah, another groovy question. And so when I take a look at just around me, all of the communities that are taking a look at their ancestral connections and wanting to know, I take that back, maybe wanting to know more, maybe not wanting to know what they know now. Our ancestors have done and created so much that we write about, we have questions about, we have art about. And it is that moment now, because it's safe to say, I want to know more about my ancestors. You know, here in, certainly in Ontario, it is Black History Month. And during Black History Month, I will tell you that it was probably about 20 years ago, I wanted to know more about my ancestors. Where did I come from? Why do I look like this? Why do I speak like this? I wanted to know more, and I needed to do research. Needed.
So what did that look like for you, the research?
Like it, and very much in the Indigenous way. It's about these stories. It's about speaking. There are, who's going to hold the, what is it called? The speaking cane.
Speaking stick, yes.
Speaking stick. So who's holding it? Who's listening to it? I was burning sage before we started. And
I have a stick. I was burning Palo Santos.
I imagine for me, it was do it before you can't do it with them. Do it before you need to hold on to other people's stories, right or wrong, good or bad. My prompt was to call and say, I want to know more about who you are, to my grandmother. Who are you, my mother? I grew up with you, my Auntie May. I grew up with my brother. I want to know more about you and the things I don't know. Will you tell me? On that moment, I couldn't find him. He had disappeared and I didn't know. I'm from Toronto. And I moved to Ottawa and I couldn't find my brother. It's like, Jason J., where are you? And so trying to figure out. And so I got these little mini messages. So he had taken a moment to head to Mexico to explore.
Nice.
Just to explore. And that's a story I needed to hear. That's what my ancestors do. We explore.
Well, and I think, the collective shift that we're going through right now, when we look at the question, why is it such an important thing, right? We're looking at like the collective shift. Because we're trying to shift from, trying is lying, Tanys. We are working on a shift. I hear a mentor in the back. Or is that a guide? We have a collective shift, right? We're shifting from that survival mode, that 3D survival mode, into sustainability, into that 5D reality. And as we do that, it's coming up for us to clear some of these patterns that just have been in our field because of some of the ancestral things. So our ancestors do all sorts of interesting things, right? Like explore. We also are there are patterns that are stuck there that are about scarcity, about fear, about money, about fear, about even resources and safety and stuff now. So there's a lot coming up with some of this stuff that's happening in the world. And I think, many people are feeling like they're still stuck, even though they're doing the work. And I think this is about us going into the ancestral healing, because maybe I'm not holding on to a thought pattern that I'm aware of, but sometimes we have these things and they're very subconscious, and we're carrying them in our energetic field. We may not be carrying them, obviously, or we're not talking about them, or whatever the case may be. But sometimes we're really carrying them in the subconscious, in the energetic fields around us or within. And so that's some of the healing that it's important for us to look at, because sometimes we don't realize it.
And isn't that interesting that you said it that way? Feeling stuck. Where are we feeling stuck? In so many ways, it's when you look back, you're looking at your history. Why do I have this weight? I grew up a little chunky and I couldn't figure out why. And it was, I love food. What's the big deal? But my other family members were slim and trim and I wasn't. Then there are people that I know, good friends who came from the statuses that I've come from, and they've done so much more with their finances. They have done so much more in their business creation. They've done so much more. Were they
There's
ever
a lot
stuck?
that have done so much less too, right? It's a continuum.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all on that
exactly.
continuum.
Yeah.
And so I think some of the progress we can make is by starting to name some of those unseen patterns, right? Stepping into, okay, what am I feeling here? What is this? Why am I feeling that charge? When you talk about money, that like, in your stomach. What is that in your stomach? Right? It's often an unconscious pattern. We feel it in our bodies before we can verbalize or understand or intellectualize it, I think.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Scarcity often isn't personal. And we are, so I just spoke about how I was feeling as a little pleasantly plump. And I took that personally. And really, in this world now, a couple of decades later, I'm choosing not to take it personally. It's simply me, and it's okay. Yeah. Was it inherited? This mind body? That's taking a look at my ancestors.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing that happens is that we end up with a nervous system reaction as well, right? When scarcity shows up. So it's beyond just money. The nervous system reacts, right? And that's that physical part I was talking about. We feel it in the body, and our body goes into fight or flight. So what is that? That's like inherited fear around money, or around not having enough or not being enough. Right?
Exactly. And there's more to that. I know anyone who's watching us right now could absolutely say, and it's this. It's not just about money. It could be about relationships. And I think we spoke about that in our previous session. Maybe it's about feeling the need to be outgoing. And perhaps that's not you. Maybe you are that, let me stay exactly where I am, because I'd rather safety than being worried about my environment. Is it safe? Is it calm? Is it violent? Is it, there's so many, and is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways that scarcity can show up too. I mean, even if you're even if you're well off financially, it could be scarcity of time. So feeling like you don't have enough time in a day, or not enough energy or motivation,
Yeah.
right? Or like I mentioned, self-worth, not feeling like you're enough at all. And that can be like, there's no demographic for those, right? Those are all, they could be at any demographic. Those
And
ones.
interesting, you use the E word enough. What is enough?
Exactly.
You know, for someone to be making a couple of bucks a day, is that enough? It could very well be. But that person who's making $1 million, that wouldn't be enough for them. And maybe the million isn't enough for them either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's what matters. And you talked about emotions. It matters.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So, here's another question. So, why is the maternal lineage so strongly connected to abundance and security? Why do you think that?
Okay. There are, I don't know, 4 or 5 kids in your family, and you happen to be the youngest, and you are racing around with your siblings, and you fall, and you scrape your knee, and it's bleeding. What's the first thing one does? You run in to see
Friend keep.
mom.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Mom, look what I've done. It's like you've cut off your leg. And what does mom do in that perfect world? Give me a hug. Be okay. Let's clean it up. And the moment she says, let's clean it up, aren't you back playing with the other 4 siblings?
Of course.
Um,
Of
that
course.
is safety. That is,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a perfect world. And there's so many worlds that aren't described or lived that way. Perhaps
Yeah.
it's, maybe it's single parents. So maybe it's mom at home, maybe it's dad at home.
Mm-hmm.
Who
Or
did
maybe
you run to?
brought up by a grandmother
Ah,
or an
yes.
aunt, right? Whoever that person is that is that caretaker of you, that's where we often sort of get some of those behavioral patterns.
Mm.
And typically, I mean, I don't know whether it's just our society now, but it's typically been that women have been, well, it's feminine energetic qualities. Those with higher feminine energetic qualities, which doesn't necessarily mean women, um, could be, right? They have more of those, like it's a caring and a tending kind of energy, right? It's about allowing love to lead in that way, right?
Oh, did I hear love to lead?
You
Are you going
did
to?
lead with
I think
love.
you'll talk about love to lead too. I
Lead with
know.
love. Yeah. So the mother line often carries themes of like nourishment, right? We're fed by our mothers. That's the natural way of things. If we're breastfed, that's going to be, how we are fed. Um, Safety, right? Like you said, you hurt yourself, that's where you go to feel safe. And you receive from your mother. And so
Exactly.
it's like it's an open door for us to get patterns from our mother side, right? The
Interesting.
mother line.
And I'll ask this question to those of you who are with us. When you were a child and it was time to go to bed and you didn't really want to go to bed, and who accompanied you to your bed? Who told the stories? I
Mm-hmm.
talked about elders taking stories. I talked about how I decided to find out more about the stories. It was maybe a big sister who read you a book and tucked you into bed. Maybe it was your brother or your cousin. Forget about cousins, first, second, or third cousins. We're talking about a community that may have been with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is that a pattern for you too, to make sure that cousins and aunts and uncles are involved? and making sure that you're settled and that you get your rest, because we all know having a lively moment probably means that you had really great rest, sleep. Harmony happened.
Mm-hmm.
Who helped get you there? Sometimes I think it was mom who tucks you in and rubs your back.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, when we're this open channel from our matriarch line,
Mm-hmm.
you know, our mothers and grandmothers, they often lived in like survival, you know, sacrifice, even silence, you know, depending on where they were and who their family was. Um, and so we tend to have inherited some of that stuff because it sits in our genes, right? It sits in the cells. The cells carry that frequency with us when we're going through life. And so that's the frequency that we need to heal. That's the clearing that we need to do in terms of that.
Yeah.
And often, you know, in those days, it was seen as like there's the martyrdom syndrome, right? Where their love was expressed through self-denial. So I'm not going to say yes to this. So it's like, no, I'm fine, thank you. This
Oh, we've
kind
heard
of,
that one before, right? No, I'm
yeah,
fine.
I'm good, when really they're not, you know, but they've been trained to be silent or agreeable. And that's often come through our ancestral lines. So these kind of things get encoded, right, in our genetics,
Exactly.
in our cells, you know, emotionally, energetically. So yeah.
And we've heard and that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know, back in the days, leave it to Beaver. So she stays at home. I know I'm going to go to YouTube and take a look at another one of those episodes. So she stays home and takes care of the kids, and he goes out and works. And then things shifted and changed, where
Mm-hmm.
now she goes out to work, and he stays and watches the kids or picks them up from school. Is that wasn't as supposed to happen? That wasn't as supposed to. And
Yeah.
now you talked about open doors. We live in a world of open doors, and it's not as supposed to. I loved how you talked about the three S's, you know, survival, um, sacrifice, and
Sacrifice and silence.
silence. Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
called
that's why the
success.
nervous system
Hmm.
is all engaged, right? Because of
I
those
know.
things that we're carrying.
I took that breath. I lifted my shoulders. I took them back and released them down. How many times do we do that? Not enough.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, you know, some of the healing can happen when we
Yeah.
do that kind of care for ourselves, when we start to honor the strength that our ancestors gave us as well, not just the scarcity, sacrifice, and silence, right? Maybe we honor the strength that they gave us, another S word, as
Yeah.
we start to heal and we see how much strength it took to be there, right? To be
Absolutely.
in that time, because many of our ancestors have lived through terrible times in history. You know, we've had world wars, we've had horrible disasters, you know, all of these things. I mean, in our lifetime alone, we've had a couple of wars in the world. We've had pandemic, you know, we've got all sorts of things happening now with unrest and
We've
all of
had the
those things.
fires. Absolutely. We've had uh,
Mm,
everything having to
terrorist
do with
attacks.
waters, terrorists, water, and
Yeah.
um, and politics. People don't. Well, that's not fair. Sometimes we might not want to listen to the stories of politics, and then you realize, in order to have a say, I need to have an idea of what's happening. Sometimes that's frightening.
Mm-hmm.
And our ancestors, like you said, Tanys, our ancestors have been through so much. They've been through the horses, they've been through the new cars.
Mm-hmm.
I know I heard that story. We talked about this. I walked 8 miles to school, Jacqueline.
Yes. In the freezing cold
Yeah.
with no coat or boots. Yeah. That's kind of what we were talking about, though. That's kind of that,
Yeah.
It's a self-denial thing or a self-sacrificing martyr kind of thing, and that was seen as love in that time, right? Or I sacrificed my meal for my child's, or those kinds of things. I mean, of course, in that situation, you likely
Yeah.
would anyway. But there's
And
the
it still happens in our world,
it
Tanys. We know
does.
that. We know that parents are releasing, letting go in, in order to help others to
Mm-hmm.
survive.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we're recognizing it more often and that we will lend a hand. And
Mm-hmm.
often it's a mom who sees what's happening in another family who says, I have some for me. I have some boiled eggs if you'd like. I have an extra loaf of bread if you'd like. See, back to the food situation, because that is
Yeah.
a scarcity. That is what we are
Absolutely.
wandering through.
Yeah. So, how do these inherited patterns show up in modern financial behavior, Jacqueline?
Mm.
Mm.
It's interesting how, and I use that's not an S word, it is the realization that there's a moment where you get to sit by yourself. An individual will sit by themselves on this chair and take that breath and realize that perhaps there's a headache coming on because they're not sure if they're going to be granted their pay for the work that they've done. They
Mm.
happen to work for a company that's having an issue granting money because the company is having an issue making money. You love the company and you will stay with the company, and you're sitting here thinking about that headache. Will I be paid?
Yeah.
Then there are those who understand that it's okay to ask. Modern financial, you invested in stocks and bonds. I know I have. And that was before 2003, 2008. I invested because I thought that was the right thing to do. Looking at my heritage, they looked at owning real estate
Mm.
as the way to make money, in addition to their part time jobs and the company that they're building. I decided that it would be great to invest in other companies. Modern financial behavior, that was then, and it continued to be that before. My ancestors, that I probably didn't know, did the same thing. They invested in other businesses. And then there are those who I will take that Monday to Friday, 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and know that a corporation or a government is going to make sure that I can feed my family and that I can put shoes on their feet. And I will decide to love that job. Notice how I said I will decide to love the job.
Yes. Well, and that's because
We've done that.
it we can love something that brings us security, right? Or
Yeah.
we can at least tolerate something that brings security so that we feel safe, because safe is like, it's a big deal. We want to feel safe. We're human, right?
Yeah.
It's what we need, is that safety. But so
Exactly.
often we're doing things like over-giving, right? In business or even with our employer, those people that are really diligent and they're working 10 hours a day because they're trying to make sure that they're doing what is necessary, right? To get ahead, whether it's, and they may not even be getting paid for that extra time. They're just doing the work because they feel they're not enough, and they're trying to make sure that they are seen as enough.
That
Right?
E word. There's S words, E words, enough.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about there's so many that do more that's required. So it was 9/11, when 9/11 happened. I happened to be in downtown Ottawa, close to Parliament Hill. And I found out, because people are saying, you need to get home now. Well, my daughter was in daycare and I needed to get to her. Taking a bus during that time was a challenge.
Yeah.
I ran. There were many of us who ran. And the daycare teachers all stayed. They didn't care what time the parents got there. They were all staying to protect, serve, and calm. They didn't get paid for that, but they knew that was incredibly important. They couldn't leave those children there. And they knew mom, dad, aunt, uncle were busy trying to get there.
Yeah.
That was proof in the pudding. People who cared enough to stay. To stay.
And there are people like that all over the world now.
Yeah.
We look at our first responders.
Yeah.
They go above and beyond.
Yeah.
All the time. You know, or our teachers. Right? Our
wow.
service personnel. They go above and beyond. So,
and
go back to lead with love, and here is where we lead with love.
Yeah.
Right? We thank them. We show gratitude for their service. Just because we're grumpy doesn't mean we should take it out on other people.
Exactly. Why should we be blaming? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I love when you said that. The intent is not to blame. The intent with compassion is to understand.
Yeah.
Just let's open and understand.
Yeah. And understand that being human is all about having moments where things are not perfect. Because perfect's a myth. Just saying. Perfect is a myth. So let's just see where we're at right now.
Is that a book? That's perfect is a myth. It's got to be.
Maybe. If it isn't, it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect is a myth. There is no perfect. So we strive for something that is not even real. Right? Or maybe it's real for me, but it's not for somebody else. So a situation could be perfect for me, but other people might look at it and go, I wouldn't want to live like that. But who's to say that person should be judging the person who thinks it's perfect for them? Right? We judge each other all the time.
Yes, we do. That's perfectly imperfect, I hear you say often. We are perfectly imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
And
we are human.
Yeah. And somewhere along the way, there's rest. Somewhere along the way, there's rest.
Indeed. Indeed.
So now I get to ask you, because I know we've talked about codes. There's so many codes out there. I know I'm in the money industry. There's codes for everything. But now I will ask you, Tanys, if it's all right, what are some of the common scarcity codes that people might recognize in themselves?
Yeah, so I think when we look at codes, they're like the inner behaviors or those things that come up for us, or the sayings that come out of our mouth without us reading. So we've kind of talked about this in terms of our like unconscious unconscious programming, right?
Yeah.
That put us in this sort of fight or flight and we don't realize. So one is, I can't afford that. It's like an automatic phrase. You see something that's worth $100 and you're like, I can't afford that. Do you know whether you can afford that? Maybe you can, right? Did you check? It's okay if you say it and you've checked. You know you've got like $10 in your bank account and it's $100. You know that you can't afford that. But if you're, a lot of people have this as like this subconscious programming that just runs through their head. And so that's a code that we need to shift, right? Or anxiety around spending or investing. So if you go and you see this $100 item, and even though you have it $100 in your bank account, it makes you anxious to think about spending that much money, right? A lot of people do this with things like when they have to go and buy furniture or a car or a house or something. It's like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Even though it might be an investment, like a house would be an investment, right? And a lot of people, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So with regard to, because we just talked about this object costs $100 and you only have $10. Perhaps it's time to buy a car because your job means that you need to have a car. You may not have an extra $60,000 in your bank account. Your house that you'd like to buy, because I'm working on that right now, could be $500,000. That's $500,000, and I don't have an extra $500,000 in my pocket. I will ask. I'll just ask.
Well, and you know, if we're putting out a vibration of that and we're in coherence and we're doing all of the steps, because we can't just be in coherence, we do need to do the steps and be open to receiving. Then see what happens. Magic happens, right? So another thing people do is avoid money conversation. I know I've been guilty of this. Avoiding conversations about money. Jacqueline's been training me.
Slowly and thoughtfully, with long, deep breaths, up with the shoulders, take them back, drop them down.
Mm-hmm. It's not the first thing I want to talk about, for sure.
Yeah.
You know. And also there's, you know, things like hoarding. That is related to a scarcity. Hoarding.
Okay. So
I don't want to get rid of that because...
Exactly. And those who are watching, do you know anyone who might be hoarding, holding on to things so that they just can't let go? Mm. Or are you a bit of a hoarder? Maybe it's the clothing that you have. Maybe it's the boxes of cereal that you have. Boxes of cereal. Only because Captain Crunch is my favorite. And there was a moment in time where I had to have 10 boxes of Captain Crunch in my cupboard. Why, Tanys? Why?
Because it's fun to eat.
I know.
Or maybe we were hoarding toilet paper.
Ooh, oh, well, yes. I recall there was a moment in time where Costco had no toilet paper. When does that ever happen?
When pandemics.
Yeah.
People have scarcity mindset.
Exactly. They fell into it. And it's easy to. I think we saw that. It was so easy to think it's not going to happen. Same with when we talked about fires and waters and storms that happen. First thing people do, get in the car, get gas. We need petrol because we don't know where we're driving, but we need it and we don't want to run out.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And some of the ways that we can, you know, notice when we're being in that vigilant state, we realize our tank is at half. Oh my God, I can't let it get less than half. Because what if? Right? Or we've only got 2 rolls of toilet paper. I need to go out and get more because what if? That kind of thing. So there's always these what ifs. That's what creates the fear. Or that's a little signal, you know, that there might be some scarcity thinking going on. Or when you tie worth, your self-worth, to productivity and struggle. If I don't do enough, I won't be worthy. That's a scarcity thinking. Because
And
we're
that's really,
worthy just because we are, right? Just because we are here.
yeah. And that's exactly, in so many ways, that's how burnout happens. That's how
Mm-hmm.
stress leave happens. That's how
Mm-hmm.
we are enough. We're more than enough.
Mm-hmm. And we are worthy. So some of those, we're talking a lot about sort of the things we say and that kind of thing. But what about those physical responses? Well, it's all about the fight or flight, right? What happens there? We get a tight chest, we shallow breathing, and it's stepping into fear. That's scarcity, is that fear thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Stinking thinking.
Yeah. And it's interesting, ancestral fear. Have we seen that? Are there stories about how what our ancestors feared?
For
I know
sure.
for me, we needed to have a roof over our heads. We needed to have a home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a fear not to have a home.
Well, and the frugality of, the ones that went through the Depression, the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Frugality became a huge trait, we'll say, during
Mm-hmm.
that time. You'd see people with all sorts of fixed holes in things, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I actually, being frugal is good. Being anxiously frugal is where we have, the issue, because then you're in that fear state. Oh, I think Jacqueline has frozen. So, scarcity. Yeah, she's back. Hello.
Hi. I was like, all of a sudden it was silent. I'm like, because we were just talking about being frugal. It's like, what?
Frugal.
What?
It's the anxious frugality that's really an issue, right? Not being frugal overall, but when people were in the
Yeah.
Depression, it created so much fear around that because they didn't know if they'd eat. So I'm not saying that the fear wasn't founded then, but when we bring that forward in our energy field now, and we're still holding it in our energy field, when most of us, I'm not saying everybody, because there's still a lot of people in fear about where their next meal is coming from, but a lot of us, even if we have money in the bank, we carry this fear around being frugal because what if? And sometimes those are just the codes that are stuck in our energy field. That stuff that we need to shift from our ancestral thinking. Right? Everybody's
Yeah.
situation is different. So really, I mean, we're talking in generalizations, and
Very
that's
much so.
you know
And I write in my book, when you're talking about why do you feel like that? So I've had situations where I don't know why I feel that way. And I have to get out my book and write, what is it that had me feel that way or do that thing? What
mm-hmm.
was it about that had my emotions run rampant or me become silent? I had to write because maybe that would give me the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
It
pick
can
up
help
the phone and
clarify.
you call your aunt. Exactly. Then you
Yeah,
call your aunt, Auntie May.
yeah.
Why would I have thought that? Now that's called trust too.
Mm-hmm.
And why would that be? Doesn't she tell me a story about my great great grandmother who did the same thing?
Yeah, and that lives in our energy body, in
Yeah.
every cell. Right? We carry trauma, our own and our ancestral, and our past life trauma. That's why healing all of this is so important for all of us to do, right?
Very much
Because the
so.
more we can heal it, the less of that we have to carry, the less sort of unconscious programming that we bring into this time in our present. I mean, it was a survival strategy, right? And shame just reinforces that. But it was a survival strategy at one point. So how do we heal scarcity, ancestral trauma? We do it with compassion, because that allows safety and choice. When we can look at somebody with compassion, it takes us out of judgment into love. And it's not that our ancestors did anything wrong, right? There's no shame in what they did. They had all of their stuff come up for them, just as we have our stuff come up for us. So it's not about judging our ancestors. Even the fact that we're healing it, I invite you to stay out of judgment of the ancestors, because they did the best they could with what they had. Right? Just as we do the best we can with what we have.
Agreed.
And we all have situations where we get triggered. Something comes up, right? And we're sitting in that energy. That's okay. That's human. And we don't need to reject the past to heal it. We need to see it and give it love. We need to see it and, hold that energy with love. And do reframing around some of these unconscious patterns that we have. So instead of, rejecting the lack of abundance, or the, judging the fact that we grew up perhaps in families that didn't have billions of dollars, right? Instead of rejecting that, looking at that with compassion, looking at our upbringing with compassion, and the fact that our parents did as much as they could for us. They did what they could with what they had. And that could be what they had physically, like money or house or whatever. It could be emotionally. They did the best they could with what they knew, what they felt. It could be knowledge, understanding.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was on a little soapbox with the, compassion.
It was a great soapbox.
Was doing a thing.
And that's when we decided to make our own soap. Yay. No, not really. No. However, I love that soapbox because it allows us to sit back and think that word reframe.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The other thing is allowing ourselves. So just because our ancestors, for instance, didn't have something, doesn't mean that we should feel bad that we do. Right? It's not a competition. And we're allowed to manifest in our life in whatever way we see fit, or whatever way we can, whatever way is meant for us.
Wow. Is that feeling guilty? I did what my ancestors, what I've never heard my ancestors had.
Mm-hmm.
And shall I feel guilty about having a manicure or a pedicure? You should do it yourself instead of having someone do it for you. Then I'm going to sit back and think, oh, is that a mama wound? That I shouldn't do that for me?
It could be, because our mothers gave so much to the family. Energy, time, love.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we know.
That is what we know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how we're going to bring this forward. How are we going to do some healing? So there's a practice that we could do, like you can light a candle with an intention of bringing forward healing. You could write a letter, maybe to your maternal line, offering gratitude, releasing the things that are not serving the line anymore. You can read it out loud because our words have strength and power.
Always.
Mm. Yeah. And send love back. Right? Take the letter, send love to it. And if you like, you can burn it because fire transmutes energy. So transmute some of the denser energy that you need to release and let that go. Do it on a full moon, it's even more powerful.
Yes. And we just had that full moon. It was lovely. Side note, I made sure to put my water out because Tanys said that I should have my water blessed by the moon. And so every full moon, every new moon, full moon, and any moon that I can see, I've got water out there. Never, I would ask you, if you're going to do that, the winter time, make sure you don't fill your glass bottle all the way to the top.
Yeah.
Because minus 32 will potentially crack the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So just be careful about that.
Yeah.
As I talk about
you may even want to use metal or something. Has a little more give.
Woohoo!
So let's do a little bit of an affirmation.
Okay.
Because we usually close the show with an affirmation. So let's do an affirmation. So if you close your eyes, deep breath in and out. And just repeat after me. I honor those who came before me.
I honor those who came before me.
I release the scarcity and fear that is not mine to carry.
I release the scarcity and fear that is not mine.
I now receive abundance with love and gratitude.
I now receive abundance with gratitude.
So be it, and so it is.
So be it, so it is.
So as you carry that forth, what else have you got going on this week, Jacqueline?
Aside from suggesting that people consider repeating that before they go to sleep, because you're telling the mind to think, this is what I'd like to have happen. And if you didn't remember it, I would write it down and have it by my bedside. Pick it up and read it. It's a great affirmation. And Tanys asked me what I have. It's like, awesome. It's for me, I have a speaking engagement here just outside of Ottawa. It's called Smiths Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And I am talking about yoga and money and taking long, deep breaths. And I may even talk about HELOC, a home equity line of credit. How exciting. I make it exciting because for those who haven't, it's time to learn. Those who know it, it's time to explore. So it's yoga at the Healing Nook in Smiths Falls. Very excited. You can find it online or drop me a line.
Awesome.
Oh, I should tell you. I should tell you when it is. So it's February 11th. It's in the evening. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. And so for me, I have, let's see, I have a level 2 Reiki class on the weekend. So if you have your level 1 and you're local, because it is an in-person one, and you'd like to take level 2, that is open for Sunday, the 8th of February. So please reach out. You can check that out at twillowlifestyle.ca. And next Monday, we have Twillow Talk with an awesome guest. So come and join us. Actually, it is the second week, so it should be Twillow Stash. And then we have this again next Wednesday, same time, same place. Come and join us as we delve into more infinite integration. And where we can take that is infinite. Final words, Jacqueline?
I would ask, because I will do this, to reconnect with my creative space, my intuitive space, my accepting space, because it's powerful and it's natural and sources of all prosperity. That's what I will say.
Which comes from that. We are creative beings.
Yeah.
The female line is creative beings. So go be creative with your feminine energy, whether you are masculine or feminine. Tap into that feminine energy, that well of creativity and creation. Till next week.
Namaste.
See you soon. Namaste.